Today we're going to be installing a backup camera system into a 2010 Chevy Silverado GMC Sierra. The instructions on the tailgate bezel are a little bit different. If you have the lock, you'll start by opening your tailgate. If it's a non-lock version, you'll just remove the bottom bolt. If it's got the key tumbler, you will remove all three. And so with a 13 millimeter, you'll, in this case, just take off the one in the back. You can close your tailgate, and you're ready to take off the bezel. To do so, you will just simply unsnap it and set the bezel aside. After the bezel is removed, you're going to go ahead and open the tailgate, release the tailgate straps, and we're going to set the tailgate on the workbench in order to drill the holes. Lift it about 3/4 of the way. Release it and bring it out. We'll put it face down on our flat surface, like so. Drilling the tailgate. The supplied instructions and template will show you a GM logo stamped on the bottom view of the tailgate. What you will do is you'll locate this GM logo. You'll measure 29.2 centimeters, about an inch, and you'll drill a hole in the center of there. To do that, go ahead and look at the tailgate. There is the GM logo there. It's a small stamp, so you'll measure about an inch, and you center of the tailgate, and that's where we're going to go ahead and drill our hole. The hole itself is a 29 millimeter hole. Once you have drilled your hole, you're going to take your tailgate camera assembly and you're going to route the cable from the top of the cavity through the door and down the bottom of the tailgate. So you'll get it in this way, and you might need a tool to actually fish it all the way through. Once you have ran the cable through, make sure to pull out both grommets, the one that will connect to the tailgate and the one going to the truck bed, through the hole, and then you will take the corrosion preventer and you will just get a dab of it on your finger and just run it all the way around the hole that you made. This will prevent rust from forming in the opening that you drilled. So once that is done, wipe off the excess and you can just simply slide the grommet in. With the grommet now securely in place, you're going to go ahead and take the camera bezel and you're going to snap it back into the opening where the old bezel came out of. You will notice that in this particular installation, we did not have the tailgate lock. Had I had one, I would have had to remove the lock assembly from the existing bezel and just transfer all the parts over to this bezel. In this particular vehicle, all you'll need to do is put the cap right in the cavity and the tailgate's ready to go back on the truck. You will also need to drill a hole on the bed of the truck in order to line up the cable and the grommet from the tailgate into the bed. What I did is I measured from this point of the tailgate to the center of my opening, which gave me just under 27 inches. Then I went ahead and I measured from the corner of the tailgate right in this area to here, which gave me just about 27 inches, which will allow the two grommets to line up, and that is where I'll drill my secondary hole. Now that we've drilled our hole in the bed, we're going to go ahead and install the tailgate. We're going to run the harness through the secondary hole, and then we will put the corrosion preventer around the hole, and our tailgate portion of the installation will be done. Now that you've got the tailgate on, we went ahead and pulled the cable through. We put our corrosion preventer on, and we also went ahead and installed the bolt, which we took off in one of our first steps to hold the bezel in place. One quick tip: if you're unsure or insecure about drilling the hole on the bed, you can actually put the tailgate on prior to drilling the hole, and you can line up the hole of your grommet on the tailgate with where you want to drill the hole on the bed. It's best that they are not exactly in front of each other, as the cable might kink a bit too much. A little bit offset is what we prefer, as you can see in this image here. Routing the body harness. Now that we have installed our tailgate, we're going to go ahead and route our harness from the rear of the vehicle at the tailgate through the body and all the way to the hood area where we're going to run it into the cab. We've put the truck on the left to make the video instructions easier to follow, but we would normally do this with a truck sitting on the flat ground. We will also recommend that you run the harness alongside an existing body harness, which there's several of on the truck, as to ensure that you do not cross paths with any moving parts of the vehicle, like the suspension, drive line, or any other component that will move. So go ahead and use your tie straps, which are provided for you, and round the cable from back of the vehicle all the way to the front. A couple of things to make sure of is do not run the harness anywhere near any heat areas like the muffler or any of the exhaust components. Again, make sure that you don't run it through any area where it's going to be touching or move close to a moving part. Then for the final step, I went ahead and tucked the excess wire up the fender well so that when I get the truck back on the ground, I'll be able to reach in there, grab my harness, and tuck it into the cab. Now that we've got our harness through the engine bay area, the end is here, and now we're going to go ahead and drill our hole and run the harness into the vehicle. Now we're going to go ahead and take apart this area of the driver's side kick panel to drill our hole for our harness and to make our connections into the actual electronics of the vehicle. So first we're going to go ahead and remove our kick panel plate here. Go ahead and take your floor mat out if you've got one. And we're going to take off the kick panel, which just comes right off the side of the truck. We've got those apart, and we're ready to mark our hole for the harness to come through the body. With the kick panel area exposed, we are going to go ahead and gain access to the junction panel. To do so, we're going to go ahead and remove the fuse cover door, which just snaps right off. Set it aside. Then we are going to remove this knee bolster panel, which is 2 Phillips screws. Followed by a 10mm, which is going to disconnect the parking brake release lever. Now that we've taken off the knee bolster and we've got the parking brake bolt removed, we're going to gain access to this cover, which is for the junction box, and it just snaps right off. Get it out. Here's the junction box. We're going to set it out of sight. You'll be able to disconnect it if need be. Disconnect any connector you need as long as the ignition key is off. And what we need to do is we need to drill our hole for the body harness through this opening, which is already here cut out in the floor mat, and that's already done for you. All you'll have to do here is drill the hole. Alrighty, the hole we'll be drilling from the inside of the truck cab is right next to the brake booster area, and so what you want to do, just to be safe, is make sure that there's no harnesses in the way prior to you drilling a hole. I have to remove this red release harness here and giving me plenty of room so when I drill my hole I won't disturb anything or damage anything. Now that we've drilled our hole through the cab and into the engine bay compartment, we're going to go ahead and take our connector and we're going to run it right through the hole. We'll set it right in there, and from inside. Now that we've got our harness through the truck body and into the cab area, we're going to go ahead and connect our video harness, which is going to go to our monitor. The first step is going to be to connect it to the harness that we ran from the truck. Then we're going to connect our ground to the ground right on the knee bolster area, right where this yellow cover is, with the supplied bolt. So we'll put our ground here, and then the 2 supplied pins will go into the locations explained in the manual and just slide right into the pin locations to actually provide reverse and ignition controlled power. With the connectors inserted into the junction box down below as followed in the instructions, and the ground now mounted, I've got the video harness here, which is for the rearview mirror setup. I'm going to now run it up the A-pillar across to the rearview mirror. In order to replace the mirror, I'll need to take off a 7mm bolt here, and just hide my cable all along the A-pillar. There's zip ties provided which will allow you to hold the harness alongside the existing harness to make sure that it does not get pinched in the way of anything. Now that we've routed our mirror cable up to the rear view mirror, the existing mirror area, we are going to remove the mirror, disconnect it, remove the housing that covers the wires. To make this install easier for you, go ahead and leave slack and do not put the A-pillar together until you are done making your connections at the mirror harness in order to give you plenty of wire to work with. The harness is made to fit and it's very exact, and so putting it together prior to this may prove to be difficult for you to work with the connections. So you will remove the screw that is on the mirror. You will then slide the mirror up, turn it around, disconnect the existing mirror, remove the mirror and the bezel. Now we're ready to make our connections and put the new mirror in. One quick tip when removing the and inserting the pins for the rear view mirror: there is a black cover on the bottom of the connector. It's kind of hard to tell, it's back here, and you need to release this. Now you're not going to remove it completely, you're only going to release it to allow for the connectors to pass through the connection. The pin will not actually come out. The plastic will only come out maybe 1/8 of an inch. Now that the installation wiring is complete and we've put our mirror on and we've secured our screw and we've put our cover for the harness on, prior to putting the vehicle back together, you want to go ahead and test it. To do so, you're going to need to start the vehicle, so make sure that all your connections were done, and shift the vehicle into reverse. The image should come up on the left hand side of the screen. Once you shift the vehicle back into park or drive, the image will go away after approximately 5 seconds, just like so. That's done. Shut the vehicle off and put your vehicle back together. Installation is complete.